Hello and welcome to another Source Gaming video. It's NantenJex here, and I wanted to make this little video on Persona 5 and Super Smash Bros. So today we got our first footage of Persona 5 The Royale from the Persona concert, and with it our first look at the mysterious girl from the last teaser, who we now know is called Kasumi Yoshizawa. We know that she is a new party member who joins the Phantom Thieves, and we also know that she isn't a female Joker like some fans had speculated. So why does this matter? And who is this Jane person in the title? Well, for Smash fans not keeping up with all the data mining news, Jane was a character referenced in Joker's files, specifically his 7th ult. The data string is a costume mesh and is labelled Jane1_pony_hair system shape 2. Back when this was first discovered, it led many fans to think that Joker was getting a female ult for his 7th costume due to the name Jane and the code referencing a ponytail. And this new girl, Kasumi, has a ponytail, so could it be her? Now, obviously, Joker came out for Smash and his 7th ult was his school uniform instead, but that data string has gone unused. So the question is, was a female ult planned and then replaced? Is Kasumi this ult, and we had an ALF situation on our hands? And then why was this replaced? So, we don't know any of the official reasons for any of this, but in this video I wanted to go over some that I think why, some reasons I think why, and then some reasons for and against Kasumi specifically being the ult that is Jane. For the reason why she was cut, the simple answer is that Joker was going to launch before her official unveiling, and Atlus didn't want that to happen. So she was swapped out for the school uniform ult instead. After all, Atlus wouldn't want her reveal ruined, and Nintendo likely didn't want to mess up their own release schedule for an ult. I also have another reason as well, but I'll save that towards the end. Instead, I want to talk first about whether Jane is Kasumi or not, starting with a point against, is that all the Phantom Thieves have different weapons and styles, so why should Kasumi be any different? Admittedly, this is a weak point against, but it is a good one to start with because it can be easily debunked. After all, there is nothing to say that both the Joker and Kasumi, might not share the same ability. It's not unheard of for this to happen with Persona, as both you and the villain of Persona 4 had the same personas, so both Kasumi and Joker could have Arsene. This would be a requirement for her to be an ult, of course. And appearance-wise, they do have a striking similarity. I mean, both have a very similar jacket and mask, as well as the red gloves, and they could also both get away with being about the same height. So, I think going over the skeleton, it's probably pretty easy for her. However, there is a place where this point falters, and it's in their weapons. See, Kasumi has a sword and not a knife, meaning her hitboxes wouldn't naturally align with Joker's. She also has a bigger style of gun, although this is less of an issue admittedly. But both the sword and dagger difference, however, is in the size, and the sword wouldn't allow for the same type of movement that the dagger does. It could for some of the moves, but not all of the moves. Then another point against her is that we could still have a female Joker come in Persona 5S, which has not been revealed yet. She could also have a ponytail, and she would obviously easily fit over Joker, just being the female version of him. However, that is of course assuming we are getting a female Joker at all in that game. But there is a point against this idea as well, and I want to thank a member of our Discord called Ozzy for doing a bit of research into this and making me aware. So the female ults in Smash are often named something like Reflet_female for female Robin. And that obviously is not the case here. She's labelled as Jane, not Jack_female. So now Sakurai and his team could be trying to hide it, just like they are by using Jack as the nickname for Joker and Doyle as the name for Arsene, so to hide it in case data miners find this data. However, by picking Jane, it becomes obvious they're referring to a female character, so what would be the point in hiding that fact? So it just seems random. Like, if you didn't want them to know it's a female, surely you wouldn't call them. Surely you'd just say it's Jack still. You wouldn't actually give it a separate name. However, characters like Alf and the Koopalings, they get their own names in their data file. They're not referred to as like Olimar something else. They're referred to as Alf or Iggy or Wendy. So, like, this would imply that Jane is a separate character who was at one point an alt for Joker, as opposed to being a female version of Joker. And that would line up pretty well with Kasumi, assuming that her moves align with Joker's, of course. This could also explain why her costume is number 7, when traditionally with male and female alts, which we've seen with both Villager, Wii Fit, Robin, Corrin, the males are always the odd number because they're the default. The default, is always the odd number because that doesn't work for Wii Fit. And then the other gendered alt is the even numbers. But here, Kasumi or Jane is number 7, which is the case for stuff like Alf and the Koopalings. So that could be an implication of that. Ozzy also pointed out to me that models like Morgana are kept with Joker's files, and Morgana has a file for every alt as well, whereas the models for the Phantom Thieves are stored within Mementos. So if she was just meant to be a cameo, then she would be added there. She could be a summon for taunts like with Morgana, but I feel this doesn't work as naturally with Morgana as it would with Kasumi, like just having her show up on one side just randomly and why her over all the others. Morgana's the mascot, so it kind of makes sense for him. So yeah, it'd be a bit random. So an alt makes more sense to me than just a random summon. So I think with these main pieces of evidence, because yeah, there isn't much because there isn't a lot to go on, but there is those points from what we can deem from her outfit and from what we know about how Smash's files were organised. I think Jane is definitely referring to Kasumi and not a female Joker. But due to the timing, she was cut. Or, and this is the other reason I was hinting at earlier, because her sword and gun are different, and potentially she might not have Arsene, like I'm assuming if she's an alt she would have to, but it's entirely possible she just doesn't, she couldn't have worked as an alt, and they'd had to cut her for accuracy reasons. So, but Sakurai would have known whether or not her persona didn't match up or not before deciding to make her an alt. After all, he had to get that approved by Atlas first. So that seems a bit weird. But she was obviously cut, whether Atlas didn't like how she turned out or whether they decided on something else. And that's something else I also want to bring up. Like, is she cut for good? Because I was speaking to Push Dustin about this, and what might have happened, and he brought this up to me, is whether or not Jane could have been planned for an alt, but then for whatever reason has been made into an Echo Fighter that will be added at a later date, possibly for a free update to anyone who purchased Joker. I want to say this is possible, more so than her being added as an alt later down the line like some people think, because of her weapons and the differences there. See, she couldn't potentially line up one-to-one exactly, but they could make some slight alterations to her moves and make her an Echo like they did with Ken to Ryu or Dark Samus to Samus. If Jane is coming back, this is where I think we will see her, and possibly further down the line when we know enough about her, maybe to coincide with the launch of Persona 5 The Royale in Japan, or maybe just when Atlas deems that they've updated the game, given enough information about the game that it's okay. But let me know what you guys think. Could Jane be Kasumi, or do you think a female Joker is still more likely? Do you think she is cut for good, or could she come back in a later update? Do you have any evidence for or against that I may have missed? Let me know below. And with that, of course, special thanks to all of our patrons, in particular the super patron Duke of Dorks. Link to his channel is in the description below. As always, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and always remember to return to the source.